Dead Rising 4 came out December 6, 2016, and is mostly known as the game that killed the franchise, since when the game released it instantly started getting negative attention from all the Dead Rising fans that have been waiting for the game to release, including myself, as I pre-ordered the game and was super excited for its release. But not only did this game kill the franchise, but it also somewhat killed the Capcom Vancouver studio, as just around 2 years, a little bit less, later, the studio was shut down along with whatever was developed for Dead Rising 5, with Dead Rising 5 being cancelled and left behind. For me, the most important part of the Dead Rising games is its fantastic gameplay, and I feel for me that's where Dead Rising 4 went wrong the most. So I want to begin what is for me my least favorite parts of this game, and my least favorite part of this game, which is the inventory system. In previous Dead Rising games, you had one inventory. It started off small, and as you leveled up, it would get bigger and bigger in the previous Dead Rising games. And when you pick up an object, a weapon, or whatever it is, whether it's a gun, melee weapon, a chair, a skateboard, a food item, doesn't matter what it was, if you picked it up, everything went into that one inventory. And you could see how many slots in that inventory you had, and you can see the items also. You could see all the items that was lined up in your inventory, and you could cycle through them and everything. And that is just, that's just removed from Dead Rising 4. Instead, in Dead Rising 4, everything has its own inventory because everything's in a different category, and when you pick up things, they don't have multi-use like they used to. Everything is either a melee weapon, a ranged weapon, or a throwable. For example, you could pick up a chair, sword, spear, something like that, and you could swing those around like they're melee weapons, or you could throw them. So you could pick up like a cash register, and you could walk up and you could smack a zombie in the face with that cash register, or you could throw it at the zombies and it would take out some zombies. That's what you previously could do in Dead Rising games, like in Dead Rising 2. But in Dead Rising 4, you pick up a cash register and you can only smack a zombie with it. You can walk up and hit some zombies with the cash register. You can't throw the cash register, which means this game removed a feature that's been in like every Dead Rising game, and it was one of my favorite features, just to pick up random weapons, hit some zombies with it, just throw whatever I want at the zombies. But no, that's removed from Dead Rising 4. And I'm also so used to being able to do that because I do it so much in the previous Dead Rising games, especially 1 and 2, that in this game there's so many times where I pick something up and I go to try to throw it at some zombies and it just pulls out a gun. Like, I don't want to pull out a gun. I don't want to use these guns. I want to throw something at some zombies. In fact, the only thing that you can throw in this game are items that are in the throwable category, which are basically just grenades, Molotovs, stuff like that. It's not just anything that you can put in the throwables and throw. No, it's just grenades pretty much. And I know it may seem like a simple thing, but like, why remove this feature when it was not only a great feature, but why remove any feature at all that's like that adds to the gameplay? But it bothers me a little bit more because it's just one of my favorite things about Dead Rising, because I remember when I first played the first Dead Rising game years ago, that was like some of the first things that I did, and I thought it was so cool that you were in a mall and you could just pick up random things and hit some zombies with it and throw things at the zombies. Just pick up like toys out of the toy store and just start chucking them at zombies. It was just hilarious, and it was just great. And it's not in this game, and that's one of the reasons I don't like this game as much. And I guess what they were thinking, I mean, if they were thinking, but I guess if anything, they were thinking that it was supposed to improve gameplay because, oh, you have inventory for these items and these items, and like you got an inventory for ranged items, you got an inventory for melee items, you got an inventory for throwables, you got an inventory for your for your food, which is basically just health kits now. And I guess I was supposed to improve the gameplay, but all it does is dumb it down and limit your choices and the options that you have with the items that you find out in the world. And is just mind-blowing to me that they even thought that that was a good idea. Now, Dead Rising 3 had this problem a little bit, this next problem that we're about to talk about, but it wasn't as big of a deal. It wasn't as game-breaking, but there's also not much of a point in going into specific stores as much in this game as the previous games. Like in Dead Rising 1 or Dead Rising 2, there was items you could only find in certain stores, and you had to go to those stores if you wanted those items, which made sense and gave those stores like some unique thing. Like if you want a chainsaw, you have to go into the tool place, and like just, you know, you can go to the food court, you can get some food and you can mix it up. You go into a bookstore to get some skill books and stuff like that. But in this game, there's no point to that because everything's just everywhere. Just everywhere. You never know what you're gonna find when you walk into a place. There's just guns all over the ground. No more do you really have to think about, oh, let's go into the gun store to get some guns or something like that, because there are so many guns in this game and they're all over the place. You'll never run out of guns. There are guns all over the place. There's grenade items all over the place, and then there's just like a bunch of different melee, any kind of melee weapon. They're just like all over the place. Never in this game one time was I like, oh, I have to, let me go to a gun store, or let me go to the Knight Castle place to get a sword or something, because they're just all over the place. It doesn't matter where I am or where you are, you can just get any type of weapon anywhere. Another gameplay change that also makes absolutely no sense, they probably changed it because Psychopaths would take more effort than what they currently have. They changed Psychopaths to Maniacs. They're called Maniacs now instead of Psychopaths, and they're nothing like Psychopaths at all, because Psychopaths would actually take more effort to create, but Maniacs, they're basically the same generic enemies that you're fighting here, just normal enemies that you're fighting, except for they have a bigger health bar. That is pretty much all the Maniacs are. They're just like normal enemy, bigger health bar, and they have little cutscenes, they have tiny little cutscenes where they just like enter the scene, or no cutscene at all, and they just arrive and they just have a bigger health bar and like a little skull, red skull or something, a red health bar, and that's it. They lack any personality that they could possibly have. They don't have any personality. They don't have any mini story or anything to go along with the Maniac or something. Instead, they're just generic enemies. And the Psychopaths, Psychopaths used to be a little tougher to kill. They always had some sort of special weapon, and they had a unique, they looked unique, and they had a unique little mini story behind it. There was a cutscene at the beginning of the fight and at the end of the fight, but no, not in this game. In this game, you can just fight some generic enemies, some basic enemies, and just fight them. They just show up, and that's it. And they also, for some reason, can do a finishing move on you, even when your health is almost full. I'm not even joking right now. I was in a boss fight. I got this boss maybe down to like 1 HP, and I thought, you know what, this boss can't get me. I run up to stab the boss, and the boss instantly kills me with a finishing move, even when your health is almost full. So they can sometimes one-shot you, which is not hard, it's just unfair.
You serious?
There's also no timer in the game, which personally, I'm gonna be honest here, it didn't really bother me that much that there's no timer, but I know it bothers a lot of Dead Rising fans since Dead Rising is known for its 72-hour time limit and timer, and it's just completely removed from the game. It's not there. I mean, Dead Rising 3 started to basically remove the timer. They kind of started getting rid of it. That's why I said Dead Rising 3 was like a stepping stone to where this game was going. But Dead Rising 3 kind of removed the timer, and it's just completely removed from this game. And now that personally doesn't bother me, but I know if you're like a huge Dead Rising fan, the timer was kind of a huge gameplay mechanic, and it's just not in this game. Zombies also seem to damage you all the time, even if they're hardly touching you. Like sometimes they're just like half their hand will touch you, just like barely maybe, and they just take like half your health. Or you know, if you're maybe it might not even look like you're getting hit, but you're just walking past some zombies and your health will just start draining as long as you're near some zombies. It's kind of crazy how much damage zombies can do by just walking near them. They always just seem to hit you somehow. They don't even have to grab you or tackle you to the ground. They just get near you and you're just taking damage. Every mission in this game is pretty much more basic and bland. Saving survivors is similar to the third game, which I also thought was more basic than what the first and second game had, which is just to kill some zombies that are next to these survivors, and then the survivors just run away, and that's the survivor missions. They may drop like a special weapon or something, a combo weapon, but that's pretty much it. You kill some zombies, they say, "Oh, thanks for saving me," and then they just run away and you never see them again. And that's pretty much the survivor missions. There's also clearing safe houses, which are all the same. All the safe houses look the same. They're just in different areas. There are also shops. After you clear the safe house, some survivors will become shops, and most of the time buying items and stuff from the shop is pointless unless it's like some clothing items that you want or something, since you can get tons of weapons and combo weapons all over the place. You can always have tons of combo weapons anywhere you go, so you really only buy something from the shops if you want to use a specific weapon or vehicle. Also, on that note, I think the combo vehicles are not as fun as the ones in Dead Rising 3. Like in Dead Rising 3, I remember the combo vehicles just being more fun, and I mean, I just recently played it, and it had like I don't even know what it was called, but it was like the motorcycle that had the roller thing on it, and you just like crushing some zombies, and it just, in my opinion, had cooler combo vehicles in the third game than this game had. And the third game also had 2 more combo vehicles than the fourth game does, with 3 having 10 combo vehicles normally, and there is technically 11 because of a Mountain Dew promo, but it's a Mountain Dew promo, so that vehicle doesn't really count. So there's 10 in 3, and 4 only has 8. They don't even reuse some of the ones that were in 3, like all the ones that were in 3 and then add 8 more. They just have 8 combo vehicles, and there are a few extra if you buy all the DLC, and by that I mean if you spend $2 for an extra combo vehicle, then you could do that. But why do that when, you know, you're already paying for this game, which may not be the best thing ever. But they also added exosuits to this game, and it's something to get in. You don't find many exosuits scattered around the place, and the exosuits also sort of fit this game, but for some reason I feel like this game just pushed in exosuits because around 2015, 2016 every game seemed to need exosuits for some reason. But I feel like in this game it fits a little bit more, and it's also fun, and it adds different ways to slay some zombies. One of my favorite ways with the exosuit is literally just to smash your fist into a couple of giant neon presents and then just start smashing zombies with the neon presents. I think that's kind of cool, but I think it's also a overused mechanic in the story, as when you get near the middle of the game, towards the end of the game, you're going to be needing a exosuit for almost every story mission, because you have to get in an exosuit to fight or survive and use the exosuit weapons because they're more powerful. And there are also some new weapons that are cool, and you can have fun slaying some zombies in this game. But all of that just gets, anything that's possibly good about this game or fun just gets dragged down by every other bad change to the gameplay. Just everything about this game drags down any potential fun or goodness that this game could have had. And it's just never going to be, even with like, if they just, you know, fixed a few things here or there, or just had some more weapons, it doesn't matter, because ultimately this game is worse than the previous 3 games with its mechanics, its story. Everything about it is just worse in the previous games. Like in the previous games, in the previous Dead Rising games, they had, in Dead Rising 3, they had co-op story. And you could play through the story with a friend. And you could go through the whole game, the whole story and everything, you could play it with a friend. Or there was even co-op sandbox that was in Dead Rising 2 off the record. And they have all been scrapped. Those 2 modes have been scrapped for a worse 4-player co-op mode in which you do missions like go here and clear out some zombies or survive for a certain amount of time. And those are pretty much the missions, and you can level your characters up. You got 4 new characters. It's split into some episodes, and I'm gonna be honest here, I didn't really play that mode that much because I didn't find it that interesting. I wanted to play through the story in co-op with a friend or something. But no, co-op is restricted to this 4-player mode that is not as good as Sandbox and not as good as co-op story. I would rather play Dead Rising 2 off the record in co-op instead of this mode. And this mode is not necessarily the worst thing ever, and would have been fine if they added this mode on top of like a story co-op or sandbox co-op, but it makes the mode so much worse because it's replacing the better modes that used to be in the game, that used to be good, and it's replaced it with something that isn't as great as the previous modes. So it would have been a good addition to all the previous modes that the game had. But when you're removing some modes and then adding a new mode that's worse than the previous ones that you just removed, it's not good. It's not good at all. It just isn't great. And honestly, that's pretty much Dead Rising 4 in a nutshell, to be honest here. It's pretty much everything about the previous games, but downgraded in every single way, and the old things were replaced with new things that are worse. So a downgrade every single way possible, and it's the 4th game. I know a lot of franchise, somehow this happens in most franchises where they get to the 4th game and then all of a sudden it's worse than the 1st game. I don't know how that happens, but the 4th game should always be better than the previous 3. That's why games and everything have sequels, because they're supposed to improve upon what was there previously. But this one just goes, no, we're just gonna make everything worse than previously. Now, Dead Rising, in my opinion at least, has not always had amazing, incredible stories, but they have been decent at least the first 2 games, and they've also had memorable characters that you would remember in the storyline, and they always had some boss characters that you fight known as psychopaths that were always pretty memorable. But you know, Dead Rising 4 is just like, hey, let's change all of that, and the story in Dead Rising 4 is just bad, in my opinion. It's just not interesting that much. And on top of that, it changes the lore of the Dead Rising franchise, basically. It changes details, small details, granted, but it still changes details like Dr. Barnaby's reason and motivation for, you know, doing experiments and research on the virus that caused the zombies. And before, it used to be to find an efficient way to mass produce cattle for like the meat industry. However, in Dead Rising 4, for some reason they switched that out, and it was changed to he was researching a strain of the zombie virus, a different strain, to find a way to be immortal. So that's like 2 different things there. and they're just not working together. They kind of contradict each other, because you can't have a reason for something and then later on change it to something else. That's just, one of those is not true. Which one is it now? Who even knows? And yes, I know it's a simple detail, but now part of the story is kind of messed up because they changed it. It's kind of like Fallout 76. They changed something in there and it kind of ruined Fallout's lore. But anyways, on top of that, the franchise's most well-known character and the original character that started the whole franchise, Frank West, gets completely destroyed in this game. Frank West is nothing like the Frank West from the previous games, in my opinion, of course, but like, he acts completely different, in my opinion. Like in Dead Rising 1, it seemed like, yeah, he always made sarcastic comments and stuff like that, but it seemed like he actually cared about people, and he was out saving people and trying to help people, and he didn't want people to die, is what it seemed like, and he didn't mind going out and saving people, bringing them to the safe house, and, you know, he saves a lot of people, and he offers to help a lot of people in the previous Dead Rising games, and by that I mean Dead Rising 1.
Are you alright? You have blood on you.
Huh? Oh. Yeah. Must be from that girl I saved.
Girl? Was she hurt?
I offered to help her, but she took off.
Can't really blame her for running from a guy with your looks.
But then Frank West in Dead Rising 4 he just kind of seems like a whiny jerk to me in this game, and he's just kind of unlikable. I don't really like the Frank West that's in Dead Rising 4. And it's also weird that in this game there's a bunch of survivors and you randomly save all these survivors, but then all of a sudden in the story, Frank doesn't care about anybody but himself, and he doesn't care to save anybody. I mean, who this guy who is supposed to be his fan just leaves him. Frank just leaves him tied up in a room. Like, who even is Frank West anymore? I don't know. This isn't Frank West. This isn't the Frank West I knew. This fake Frank is a selfish, unlikable jerk, and he's part of the reason why I don't like this game, because they're just like, oh, Frank West is back. No, Frank West is not back, because this is not Frank West. Which I was going to show that scene where, like, one of his fans is tied up in the chair and he walks in there and just kind of, like, does other things, never lets him go, never unties him, and then stuff starts going down and he just kind of leaves the room. Frank West leaves the room and just leaves that guy tied up. Like, that's not the Frank West I know. I mean, that's not even Frank West the rest of the game, because he does that in the story, but then you walk around and you save a ton of survivors. And I was going to show that scene, but of course, somehow it messed up while recording this game. Parts of this game, like 4 recordings of this game, was just completely messed up for some reason. It was just a black screen, just audio, no visual, so I can't show that scene, but that's basically what happened, and that just bothered me. The story also involves Frank West going back to Willamette, which he's reluctant to go back, and he's also reluctant to discovering a story. Like, he's always been about discovering the story. That's like one of his main things. He always goes to these locations to discover the story, but this time he seems very disinterested in actually getting the story, but at the same time then uses everyone to try and cover more of the story. So it's kind of weird. At some points he's like just really wanting to uncover the story, and then at other points it's like he doesn't really care about the story, and he only helps people when it's in his interest to uncover more of what's going on in Willamette and what happened in Willamette. And it does introduce some new characters, but the new characters are either unlikable or they're not that memorable. And if this game was mostly for the story, which I don't think it is, and I don't think Dead Rising games have ever been mostly about the story, I think it's been mostly about the gameplay, in my opinion. At least that's what keeps me playing Dead Rising. But I would have never made it to the end of the game if the main part of this game was the story, because the story does not keep me interested, and it loses my interest like maybe like a few hours in, maybe 2 hours in, I'm already disinterested in what's going on in the story. And the story is around 8 hours long, so it's not even like that long of a game. So now let's talk about the graphics. A lot of people give this game's graphics, you know, they just say the graphics aren't that good and they're kind of worse than the third game and stuff like that, and they don't like the look of things, or it's too dark and stuff like that. But for me, this game is kind of odd with its graphics because I actually like the look of some of the game. I like the levels, I like the lighting and everything like that. I like it. I think it looks nice for the most part. The part that I don't like about this game's graphics is I like the buildings and all that, but I don't like the character models, especially the zombie models. The zombie models are probably the worst looking thing in this game. I mean, the other things can look good, like the lighting and stuff like that, the mall, but the zombies, I mean, they're a bloody mess, and there's no joke there. They actually are a bloody mess. They're just covered in blood. They don't really look that great, and it's just like the blood covers up any detail you could possibly see on a zombie. It's just like bodies, just red bodies walking around because there's just so much blood. They're just covered in so much blood, and the blood doesn't even look like blood sometimes. Sometimes the blood kind of looks black and super shiny based on the lighting, and it just looks weird. Now, a lot of people talk about this game's performance issues, or at least they did when the game came out, but since I played it recently, there was less performance issues than I remember there being, and there's just less performance issues. There's certain things that were in previous games that aren't in this game, like Dead Rising 3's performance on PC was just awful, and this game has better performance than Dead Rising 3 on PC, that's for sure. But this game also does have some performance issues, but it's nothing really that major in my opinion. It could be optimized a little bit more because there are some frame dips when there are a lot of zombies on screen, and there are just a ton of zombies on screen. I think it's the most zombies in any Dead Rising game that can be on screen at one time. Maybe Dead Rising 3 might compete with it, but I think Dead Rising 4 tops the amount of zombies on screen. But there's nothing major other than some like glitches and stuff. We can also talk about that. There are a lot of glitches in this game, and for some reason there's just a lot of zombies spawning inside of objects in this game. For some reason, I don't know why, but it always seems to happen where there's a zombie stuck in something and it just kind of sits there. But this game automatically runs better than Dead Rising 3, and it runs better than the first game and the second game in 4K, because for whatever reason, Dead Rising 1 and Dead Rising 2, when I turned both of those games to the 4K resolution, all of a sudden the game just like gives up. It doesn't know what to do, and it's like almost unplayable at 4K, the previous game. So in my opinion, there are some performance issues in this game, but it does improve on some of the performance of previous games, and I still don't know why Dead Rising 1 or 2 just doesn't work at 4K. I don't know why, but they just don't, for me at least. Now, as you guys know, if you watched the previous videos, my favorite soundtrack, I think Dead Rising 1 has the best soundtrack out of any Dead Rising game, and I still think that, so I just have to toss that in real quick because nothing can beat this one song that's in Dead Rising. Let's play it right now because it has to be in every Dead Rising video, so let's play it right now without anything else. My voice gone. Music on. I know, I just cut it off and here's my voice again, but like, some of you might just be like, what the heck, but like, for real, I don't think anything can just top. Maybe it's just the nostalgia of playing when I played the first Dead Rising game for the first time, and that was the first Dead Rising game I've ever played, and just the memory of that music, just wandering the mall, killing some zombies, and that song playing. I mean, I don't think anything can top that, but I mean, every Dead Rising game, in my opinion, should have this song, especially when it's a return to Willamette, Frank West, and it's a fourth Dead Rising game. We got Frank West, we got a bigger mall, and like, we're just killing some zombies in there, and it doesn't have this song. At least I never heard this song play in Dead Rising 4, because all I hear in this game is Christmas songs. And granted, I think that Christmas songs actually fit well, and I actually like the Christmas songs in here, but come on, just throw this song in here. Like, throw this song in here. This song needs to be in every Dead Rising game. And if a fifth one, if Dead Rising 5 ever comes out, it needs to have this song in it. But it always has been there. So the real question is this game really as bad as everyone says it is, and did it really kill the franchise? Well, the answer is, did it really kill the franchise? The answer to that is obviously yes, because Dead Rising 5 got scrapped because of how well, or actually not how well, but how bad this game did. And is it as bad as everyone says? It may not be the worst thing out there, but as far as Dead Rising games go, it is the worst Dead Rising game, a downgrade in every single way possible. And the things that really bring it down, in my opinion, and is the reason why I prefer to play the other ones rather than this one, is there's no co-op story or no co-op sandbox. The inventory system I absolutely hate. The story is uninteresting and not good in my opinion. And also, for the fourth thing, is just its performance, or actually glitches mainly. Not as much performance, but the glitches and just the game breaking stuff. And there's no really redeeming qualities. Oh, another big one is Frank West. Like, I just cannot stand Frank West in this game. I just don't know. Frank West to me in this game is just not someone I can like, unlike the Frank West that's in the first game. The Frank West that's in the first game I can get behind. The Frank West that's in Dead Rising Off the Record, I can also slightly get behind, but this Frank West, I just can't get behind this Frank West. But anyways, that is going to be it for this video, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit that like button. Leave a comment below if you made it this far. Tell me, you know, just what you think about the Dead Rising franchise and Dead Rising 4 in particular. And tell me if you even made it this far. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because you want to be subscribed. And I'll see you guys next time.